If you've spent any time in gardening spaces online, you've probably heard leaf mold described as a miracle fertilizer, a plant booster, or even a substitute for compost. I believed it myself at one point, and if I'm being honest, this misunderstanding is one of the biggest reasons gardeners get disappointed results even when they're doing everything right. On the Soilpower channel, my goal has always been simple: pass the correct information, not trendy shortcuts. Leaf mold is powerful, but not in the way most people think, and once you understand what it really does, you unlock the true soil supercharger that actually drives growth, vigor, and yield. Today, we're going to separate myth from reality, walk through a real side-by-side experiment, and show you exactly what works, why it works, and how to use it correctly in your garden, whether you're just starting out or you've been growing for decades. Leaf mold is simply decomposed leaves, broken down primarily by fungi rather than bacteria. This distinction matters more than most gardeners realize. Unlike compost, which is nutrient-driven and bacteria-dominated, leaf mold is fungal-dominated and structurally focused. When leaves fall in a forest, they don't rot into fertilizer. They transform into a sponge-like carbon-rich layer that holds moisture, stabilizes temperature, and creates the perfect home for fungal networks. That's the magic of leaf mold. It doesn't feed plants directly. It builds an environment where plants can thrive. This is where the confusion starts. Because leaf mold improves soil so dramatically over time, gardeners assume it must be feeding plants. In reality, it's feeding the soil biology, not the crop itself. If you're expecting fast growth, deep green leaves, or increased fruiting from leaf mold alone, you're asking it to do a job it was never designed to do. And that misunderstanding leads people to miss the real growth driver altogether. Healthy gardens need two things working together: long-term soil builders and short-term metabolic drivers. Leaf mold belongs firmly in the first category. It builds structure, fungal balance, water retention, and resilience, but it does not send growth signals to plants. Plants don't just grow because nutrients are present, they grow because biochemical signals tell them when and how to grow. Those signals come from enzymes, amino acids, organic acids, and natural plant hormones, not from decomposed leaves. This is where fermented plant juice, or FPJ, enters the picture. FPJ doesn't replace compost or leaf mold. It complements them by activating plant metabolism in a way leaf mold simply cannot. Understanding this distinction is the difference between just hoping your garden improves and actually watching it explode with life. So, FPJ is made by fermenting young, actively growing plant material with sugar. The key phrase here is actively growing. These plants are already producing growth hormones, enzymes, and bioavailable compounds. Fermentation preserves and concentrates those signals. When applied correctly, FPJ doesn't feed plants in the traditional sense. Instead, it tells them to grow. It accelerates cell division, increases chlorophyll production, improves nutrient uptake, and enhances overall vigor. This is why FPJ works fast, while leaf mold works slow. They are not competitors, they are partners, but only when used for their proper roles. Instead of repeating what others say, I wanted to see the difference clearly, so we ran a simple, controlled experiment. 2 materials were collected. The first was young, fast-growing green plant material, soft stems and leaves full of life. The second was high-quality forest leaf mold, rich in fungal life and organic matter. Each material was fermented separately using proper ratios. The resulting liquids were applied to identical plants grown in the same soil, under the same conditions, with the same watering schedule. No tricks, no mixing, just direct comparison. What happened next tells you everything you need to know about what leaf mold is, and what it is not. One of the biggest mistakes gardeners make with ferments is guessing ratios. Fermentation is chemistry and biology working together. If you get the balance wrong, you don't get a powerful input, you get a weak, unstable liquid. For green growth FPJ, The correct ratio is simple and precise: equal weight of plant material and brown sugar, not volume. Weight. This matters because, water content varies wildly between plants. Young shoots, vines, and leafy growth are chopped, weighed, and thoroughly mixed with the same weight of brown sugar or jaggery. The sugar pulls out plant juices through osmosis and fuels beneficial microbes during fermentation. After several days in a shaded, breathable container, you're left with a rich, biologically active concentrate. This FPJ is loaded with growth signals, and plants respond almost immediately. Now here's where the truth gets, uncomfortable for some people. Leaf mold does not ferment well. It doesn't contain enough sugars, enzymes, or active growth compounds to produce a strong FPJ. Even when you increase sugar levels just to make fermentation possible, the resulting liquid behaves very differently. Leaf mold FPJ acts more like a mild microbial wash. It can introduce beneficial organisms and slightly stimulate soil life, but it does not trigger aggressive plant growth, and that's not a failure. It's simply leaf mold doing what it's designed to do. Expecting leaf mold to behave like green plant FPJ is like expecting compost to act like a hormone spray. They serve different purposes, and, confusing them leads to disappointment. This is where most guides either oversimplify or honestly dangerously exaggerate. FPJ is powerful. That means, dilution really matters. The correct working dilution for FPJ is roughly 1 part FPJ to 500 parts water. This isn't arbitrary. At this level, plants receive biochemical signals without stress or imbalance. For a small home garden, this might mean just a few milliliters of FPJ in a watering can. For larger gardens, it scales proportionally. What matters is consistency, not concentration. FPJ works best when applied lightly and regularly, not dumped in heavy doses. Apply it early in the morning or late in the evening when plant pores are open and microbial life is active. Use it as a soil drench or a gentle foliar spray, but don't mix different FPJs in the same application cycle. Let each input do its job clearly. The difference between the two treatments was impossible to ignore. Plants receiving green growth FPJ showed deeper leaf color, faster vertical growth, thicker stems, and earlier flowering. They looked energized, not forced. Growth was balanced and healthy. Plants receiving leaf mold FPJ showed little visible change in growth rate. However, soil structure improved over time, moisture retention increased, and microbial activity was clearly enhanced. The benefit was underground, not above it. And that's the lesson most gardeners miss. Leaf mold is a soil builder. FPJ is a growth activator. When you expect one to do the job of the other, you sabotage your results. Here's where everything comes together. Leaf mold should be applied as mulch or soil amendment, ideally before planting or during bed preparation. It builds long-term soil health, supports fungal networks, and stabilizes the growing environment. FPJ should be used during active growth stages, when plants are establishing, vegetating, flowering, or setting fruit. It provides the metabolic signals that tell plants to use the soil you've built. When you respect these rules, your garden stops struggling and starts cooperating with you. Leaf mold is not a miracle fertilizer, and it was never meant to be, but when you understand its true role, it becomes one of the most valuable tools in your garden. The real soil supercharger isn't a pile of leaves, it's knowledge, precision, and using the right input at the right time. At Soilpower, we don't chase hype. We build systems that work year after year. If this article helped you see your soil differently, imagine what consistent, correct information can do for your garden over time. If you found value here, make sure you subscribe to the Soilpower channel, share this with a fellow gardener who's still confused about leaf mold, and keep growing with intention. Healthy soil is built with truth, and powerful gardens follow.